Mansfield today on a Saturday, and that means it's time for Mansfield and Mates, just a gentle conversation with people I happen to know, some of whom I've worked with in the past. One of those happens to be somebody who's still in broadcasting. If you tune into ENCA in the early evenings, then you would see her gorgeous face all over your television. I'm talking about Sally Burdett. Hello, Sal.
Hi, Jeremy.
Okay, she looks very weird like this, guys. So if we can just make Sally go full screen and do that, and now do that. See, that looks better. That looks like the Sally Burdett that I know. It's lovely to speak to you once again, Sal. As I said, on Mansfield and Mates, we just really catch up with people, some of whom, as I said, I've worked with before. We worked together first, hell, I don't know how many, it was about
19 foot say. Look, the first time I met you was at Rhodes University.
Well, that's right, but that wasn't really work, was it?
Well, I was in the costume department. You were swanning around doing fabulous voiceovers. I don't know if you'd count that as work.
Oh, my goodness. Now, how many years behind or ahead were you with me?
I was in my first year when you were in your final year.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so I've got a fair judge on your age now, which we won't mention at all, because
I don't mind. I'm 54. You know, growing old is a privilege. It's a privilege, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's not for sissies, to be honest.
No, hell no.
and then we got together. So you did drama and journalism as well.
That's right.
Okay. And what happened to you after that? Where did you first start work?
So I finished, when was it, 89, end of 89, around there, and came up to the big smoke to look for work. Battled, actually. Eventually got a job, because my Afrikaans was pretty appalling. I did manage to get a job at the SABC, but it was working for their external service. So I was like cutting and splicing tape, you know, the old-fashioned way of editing for radio, putting together farming programs and music programs. But I learned the basics of radio. And then sort of 94, 95, when they relaunched Radio South Africa as it was then into SAFM, I auditioned and got a job as the main anchor with John Mason in 95. So that was post-elections, really trying to revamp what the SABC was all about, because, of course, up until then it had pretty much been an organ of the state, the apartheid state. So it was a very exciting time working with people who were returning from exile, people who brought in new ideas about broadcasting. So in total, I was at the SABC for quite a long time, eventually migrated into a bit of television, and then jumped into writing. I started with Fair Lady. That was 2001 or so. As their consumer editor, became their bureau chief. And then Deborah Patter. I bumped into her one day when she was heavily pregnant, and she asked if I wanted to fill in for her while she was on maternity leave, reading news for ETV. But of course, in between that, you and I would have worked on a word or two, which was huge fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Let's just go back to those SAFM days, because they must have been fascinating, as you say, not just working with people who were coming back from exile and had different views on broadcasting and different ways of doing it, but also interviewing for the first time in South Africa, probably a whole load of people who South Africans had never heard on the radio before.
That's very true, actually. And it was also, I think, about those new politicians learning about media. I mean, as you'll remember, right from the get-go, a free media was so incredibly important to the new government. So everything was opened up. And I was young, and I was learning about what it was, you know, the way forward for our country. And it was incredible to speak to people who came back to this country It was a very positive and exciting time in many ways. The one thing I've noticed over the years, having interviewed politicians right from back then to now, is that our audiences are much more savvy, don't take things at face value, but also our politicians are more aware of the impact of the media. So that's quite an interesting change, is that our politicians are much more media savvy than they were back then, where I think there was probably a lot more trust and a lot more openness about everything, really.
And I suppose that makes the job even harder, because it means you've got to delve and delve and delve the whole time, which you guys at ENCA are very good at doing.
Thank you. I mean, I always say not every interview is going to be a hard-hitting, holding someone to account kind of interview. I think, what I try and keep central to what we do on SA Tonight is why are people watching us? Certainly during the pandemic, the worst of the pandemic, it was very much, I don't know what is going on in our world. I am concerned, I'm frightened, I need the latest information on what's going on with COVID-19. So that was very information-based and fact-based, and that was a very important role. That's really where a news channel comes into its own. But a lot of the time, people just want to understand what's going on in their world, and they want to understand the meaning behind what's going on in their world. And you can't just give them all the bad news. You have to also remind people that there are good things happening. There's some progress being made. Otherwise, it's just doom and gloom. And the reality is that people will turn off. People just go, I can't handle this. Because even in the bleakest of times, we all look for something to hold on to.
Let's fast track this then to where we first worked together. That was also at the SABC. You did quite a few seasons with me of A Word or Two, and as you say, it was great fun, actually. And people don't know, but we used to shoot 5 shows a day of that. We'd go in I think in the course of 10 days, and we shoot an entire series. It was pretty pressurized, but we ended up getting fairly good at making it work somehow. We stuck things together, didn't we, in those days?
Well, Jeremy, I mean, all the pressure was actually on you. I mean, I just sat on my bum and spoke nonsense and looked things up in the dictionary. You had to come with that energy every single show. And as you say, multiple episodes in a day, you have to keep refreshing your energy and you have to keep going no matter what. And I will never forget a conversation that you and I had during the course of one of those seasons. A colleague of mine had a tragedy, and it was just absolutely devastating to hear what had happened. And I was very sad about it. And I remember you saying to me, that is the awful thing, in a way, about broadcasting, is that terrible tragedy strikes, the show has to go on. And that in many ways, we don't, as broadcasters, have the space and time to grieve when something awful happens. And that has never left me, because you are so very right.
Yeah, I can't remember who the conversation was with, but whoever it was said something to me, and I've never forgotten it. He said to me, "My boy, do you think that every single night Michael Flatley really wants to tap dance? That's what we've got to do sometimes. We've got to get up there and tap dance." And I've never forgotten that. Do you still find that pressure in your current work that you're doing in media? Because it is a very pressured environment.
It is pressured, but I do think, is it Malcolm Gladwell who talks about the 10,000 hours of experience? And as you progress in this profession, you also, in difficult times, you learn to rely on your experience. And also the knowledge that you got through it then, you'll get through it now. So I think that is the important thing about experience, to know that yes, it can get pressured, but the reality is you've done this before, you know how to do it. Also at times like that, I try and remind myself, what does someone at home want to know? This is not about me being anxious because I have to do a hardcore interview. This is about going, what does the viewer need to know? What does someone listening want to understand. And that also helps, calm me down a little bit, I guess.
What is a day in the life of Sally Burdett like?
Oh, it's filled with drama and glamour, not. My husband and I, we have 2 teenagers. So mostly life revolves around them. My son is 17, so he's up very early most mornings. He does this extra applied maths, terribly clever. I don't know where he gets it from. Certainly not me, must be my husband. But he has to be at school like 6:30 most days. So one of us will take him through. And then my daughter has to get to school. So there's the mum and dad school run, which we all do, My mornings are very much focused on chatting to the SA Tonight team. We will have conversations throughout the morning about the right people that we should be seeking for the show in the evening. So while I'm not at work, there's a lot of work going on. There's I'll read the newspapers, get a sense of where the country is at, listen to lots of different radio stations. What are the conversations that people are engaging on? And then I head to the studio around about for 3:00, get hair and makeup done so that I can concentrate on the show. And then it's about working in the bulletins, putting in the questions that I've researched, chatting to the team about what the lead should be for the evening, deciding last-minute interviews, because of course that also happens. And then we're on air from 5:00 for 3 hours. I did the show on my own for quite a long time, and I must say I was very pleased a few months ago when they brought Shahan Ramkassoon to join me, because, as you know, Jeremy, a great partnership on air is just an absolute joy. Shahan and I are very much on the same wavelength. We have a real understanding of what makes good telly, and he has a bit more energy than me. So he'll go, "Come on, let's do that," and I'm like, "Okay." Yeah. So I must say that is really, really fantastic, is to have a really great on-air partnership. Those days when, as you say, you have to keep tap dancing, though you might not feel like it. That's when your team, and it's not just Shahan, there's a wonderful team behind the scenes, my EP, Bhavna, and then Aisha, who's in my ear telling me what's happening next. There's a big team of people that support us while we're on air. And Jeremy, the value of a good production team. I mean, it's immeasurable, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. It's not the people in front of the camera, it's the people behind the camera who actually make the show. We're just the ones who sit here and, in my case, look ugly, in your case, look absolutely gorgeous. And with having Shahan on the show as well, he's got a scathing wit, which can slice through you, and you don't even know that you've been cut to pieces and you're bleeding before he's finished with you. It's a lovely combination, the two of you.
I like that, and I think we complement each other, because he always says that I should go work at the UN, because I try and balance everything. I've always seen the other side of the story. I've always seen the other person's point of view, and I always just naturally want to see the positive side of things. Whereas, Shahan will sometimes go like, "No, that person's just had too much kindness now." So every now and then, when I do decide that someone is really, really pushing it, then I will go in for the kill. I will go in and basically explain to them why the views that they hold are not correct. But yeah, as I say, I think those interviews are few and far between, because most of our viewers just want to understand things. They want to get a handle on what's happening in their world.
Sally, thank you for leading us into a little slice of your life, and it's been great catching up with you once again. Sally Burdett, news anchor, journalist, mother, glorified Uber driver. And you can catch her next week on ENCA on SA Tonight. That's it from us. In the Mansfield and Mates section, we invite now, as usual, our other mate to join us in the form of Melanie Walker, right in your garden.
And then there she was.
Again.
Yeah, Melanie Walker.
Hello.
Hello. You know what? You always come up with these. What happens during the week, just so that you know, is that we have a communication channel which sometimes works Sometimes it doesn't.
Well, we need a brunette in between the two of us for that to work properly because we're both blonde.
Exactly. So this little communication channel happens around different shows. So Mel and I will be speaking to Dr. Vicky or Jared, us, the bloke who does all the production work, and Danny, who helps him with that, will be speaking to other people. So we're all chatting to each other around different topics that are going on. And then Mel is usually the one to drop the bombshell in the middle of the pond. And the ripples all go out, and nobody knows what she is been eating out of her garden, because these
What are you
phrases come
talking
up.
about?
Agroecology.
Agroecology. How do you not know about agroecology?
Well, I don't know about it, so don't shout at me about that.
Well, you're about to.
But the thing is that I'm sitting there and this message comes up. We're going to be speaking about agroecology. And I go, Mel, what the hell is this?
Okay, well, I did refer to it the last time we chatted.
I remember you saying something about it. But bear in mind, my memory doesn't last long.
Okay, he's a goldfish. Okay,
It's
so
not true, by the way. It's not every 3 seconds. They've proved that they retain their memory for a lot longer than that.
well, it's actually horses which are worse. A horse. Have you ever been horse riding? And you can go in the same place, and you go around, and every single time it's going to go, oh, what was that? And exactly the same place. Horses have the most ridiculously silly memory. They're worse than goldfish.
Okay, now, you see, you've already changed the subject.
Yeah, okay, so no, I was getting onto it. So a couple of years ago, I found out about, through my friend who works in the slow food movement, about this wonderful person down in Orange Farm area who'd set up this whole thing about teaching in the area, people in the area that he lives in how to grow their own food. Because he was sitting there, he had been working, and then he wasn't working in that job anymore, and he sat and thought, what am I going to do with my life? But I'm going to get him to tell you his story, because
This
we
is
have him
Tim.
on the line. Yes, Tim Abaa.
Yeah.
Hi, Tim.
Hi, Melanie.
Where are you joining us from today?
I'm at the heart of Orange Farm.
In the heart of Orange Farm. Right, Tim, tell us the story behind this. How did this all start, bud?
So, since I was a small child, I loved farming. In fact, when they asked me, when you grow up, what do you want to be? I want to be a farmer, But, if you look, most of our parents, they feel like farming is not a career that someone can be able to, to live sustainably. So there's always a competition between parents. Some, they want their kids to be doctors, surgeons, engineers, accountants, and such things. But there comes Tim says, I want to be a farmer. Then my dad was always against it. But, I must give him credit, because at the age of 5 years old, he forced me to start a small patch of garden. It was like 3 meters by 3 meters. And then when they used to cut the grass, he would say, take that grass, put in the garden. Only to realize that it was mulch. Then he will go and buy me seedlings and, make me every day when I come from school. My friend were playing soccer, then I will go and tend to the garden, water every day. So at least it used to keep me from the streets. Then come 2 months down the line, there was too much vegetables. Then he will say, sell some, and that was my pocket money. So my appetite was being shaped by my parents. And then come that time when you want to visit the rural areas during the holidays, then there's so much farming. You go see the livestock, visit the farmers, the grannies, everybody was doing farming. You go and work in the pyrethrum farm, you have some coffee, you have some tea, and such things. So I've always loved farming. And even school, the teachers that I went through their hands, they were good mentors. They mentored me. They sharpened me to be who I am. But I've always loved farming from a young age. I usually tell people, what? I eat, dream, sleep, farming.
Okay, and then at one stage, when was it, about 10 years or so ago, that you decided, okay, I'm going to grow trees. I'm going to grow fruit trees, and I'm going to make sure all the people in this area have fruit trees in their gardens so that they can actually eat from them as well. And you were just taking like cool drink bottles, the plastic bottles, and using those to grow everything in because you didn't have money to buy the pots. And that's where that whole thing started for you, of getting other people in your neighborhood working on it as well.
So at one point, I was so depressed, because I had lost, I was running a shop in town. Then they broke in and stole all the electronic stuff, Then I was so depressed, I say, let me take a 2-3 months break and maybe, think, because they broke the shop like 4 times. Then I lost everything. And I said, no, this is not on. Even if I start again, to the same fate. Then one night when I'm sleeping, I'm thinking, you know what, Tim, you are good with trees since you're a small child, because some of the people that I used to stay with, they used to do some nursery and stuff. What if you start, because in the yard where I am, there's lots of fruit trees. So peach and apricot, and come that time, November, December, there's lots of peach. Some of them fall on the ground and we eat peach. There's lots of seeds that are left behind. So I say, if I can take these seeds of peach and plums and apricot and plant a nursery, then I can be able to make money. Then
Okay,
I can
so
be
you
able to
got
make
on from
money.
there.
So
Okay,
I
and-
say, what? In the community, there's plastic bottles that are being thrown all over. If I can pick these plastic bottles and start with 1,000 trees, and I sell each tree at R1, that's $1,000. If I sell at $10, that's 10K. And if I'm lucky enough to sell for 100K, for $100, that's 100K. So let me start maybe with 10,000 trees. No, I say, no, let me be realistic. Let me start with 1,000. So I went to the community collecting all these plastic bottles for recycling. Then I went to the nearby bush where there's too much topsoil. I cut into half the top part, of which is the lid. I took off the lid. The bottom part, I made 3 holes down for drainage of water. Then I filled the soil. Then I put a seed. Then I planted like peach, plums, apricot. There was so much people got grape trees in the yard. So I cut the grape cuttings. So I ended up with over 2,000 peach. There was over 500 pawpaw. There was 200 guavas. There was over 2,000 grapes. I had the white, black, blue, black, red, all seedless grapes. Then I had over 50 avocados, 300, it was apricot, and even plums. Come that time they were ready in 6 months. They were ready. Some of them I grafted, some of them I didn't. Then I started approaching everybody and say, guys, I got trees here. You can buy for community. Because the idea was for them to buy and donate to the communities or the household, or even people to buy. But Orange Farm is a poor community. People were asking me, must we buy a tree or must we buy a vegetable or grocer or bread for our families? And I could understand. So at one time, I got angry, and I called the community. I say, come and help yourself. There's a trees here for donation for free. The idea is for you to go and plant. You can choose 2, 3, 4 trees, different varieties of your own choice. But the idea is for you to go and plant your trees. But before then, I had to workshop them, how to plant a tree and the care, composting, and all those. So on the day, there were over 2,000 trees that were taken by the community. Three weeks later, the blessings come, later. There's this lady who came and bought over 600 trees. Then I took that money and bought my first plastic potting bags. Then I bought some compost. Then I started there. That's how the nursery started. Then
that's fantastic.
Orange Farm now is green food. Each and every yard, there's a peach, there's a plum or apricot or a grape for that case, and they're thriving well. So at least I'm glad that because I'm always a key campaigner for climate change. We must address it, and the only way to do that is to start small microclimate zones in our communities. And Orange Farm, like any other community, they are fighting climate change by tree planting, and I'm glad I'm a pioneer of that project.
But then you also got into the whole thing during lockdown of really taking it up another level by getting people to grow their own food, because of course we all ran into so much trouble during lockdown.
So before then, in 2017, 2016, I said, no, Tim, what happens to our communities in terms of seeds? Because seeds is a big issue in the communities. So I started a seed bank in Orange Farm. I invited farmers from all the community to come with a packet of seed. On the day, we had over 300 packets of seed donated by individuals for me to share with the communities. And there's a 72-year-old granny who came with seeds she had saved for the past 40 years. And then we had to give each other. So on the day, we had over 80 attendees. So we shared seeds, and we have started a seed bank in Orange Farm that we're able to give. So what happens there is you come, you got beetroot, you want spinach, you swap. But before then, we do train our people that how do you take care of the seed pre and post harvesting, the cleaning, the sorting, the grading, so that we don't get to contaminate the seeds. But there's no financial involved. Even if you don't have seed, you just come and borrow. After harvesting, you pay twice the amount you borrowed in terms of harvest. It can be 2 kg. If you took 1 kg, you bring 2 kg. No monetary value. So it's for the poor, for the rich. It accommodates everybody. Then after that, we say we got enough seeds. Then what next? Team, you got a knowledge of training. Can't you capacitate the people with skills on farming? Oh, yes. I took the agroecology route. So I started training them about the organic way of farming, whereby even if you don't have resources or financial muscles, you can use the readily available resources in your area for you to generate income by farming. So we trained so many farmers, and most of these farmers had so much produce. So come 26th of February, there was an announcement of lockdown. So most people, they were trapped in their houses. Their movement was limited. So most farmers, they were calling me, Tim, we got lots of harvest. Where do you take them? Even the people delivering, they were not there. So I made a call to a friend of mine, then a seed community from UK suggested and said, Tim, let's partner and start the Ubuntu Project. So I started the Ubuntu Project, of which was now to buy, because I will go and collect the fresh produce from all the farmers, including then we come and pack it in my farm, because I was also having lots of produce. Then we started selling, because some of the people, they were not able to move out. But we say, you know what, in our community here, there are so many people that have lost jobs. Most people are breadwinners, and some of people have become jobless. They know there's no income. How do we feed these people? Because hunger is becoming real. So I started donating a box of vegetables. So it was having a crate of 12 vegetables: spinach, beetroot, lettuce, pumpkin, onions, beetroot. It was like, and beans, tomatoes. There was a spring onions. There was even beans, But I say, you know what? These vegetables can only last for 5 days. What after that then? And I'm all about sustainability. Let me also include a starter pack of what I used to call an Ubuntu starter, because it was Ubuntu Project. So I say an Ubuntu starter pack, gardening starter pack, of which contain 20 kg of compost, 3 packets of vegetable seeds, and 1 packet of herb, and 50 different types of vegetable seedlings for them to start their own gardens. But most people, they don't know about gardens. So I also include there a planting or a gardening guide for them to go through. They can cover them, because there was no contact in terms of training. So that's how we started. So people were eating, but at the same time also started gardening. That's how we started with this movement of people starting their own backyard gardens in lockdown.
And the whole thing was as well that we could also buy it from Tim. The money then would go back into the community, in that he would take that money with those boxes to go and help them.
That's an amazing story, Tim.
So we had people in the suburbs, people who could not go out, and the fear was so real, because COVID was just a scary animal, So these people, we had to start another wing of the Ubuntu produce, whereby we will now sell this one to generate income to keep the project going. So people would order so we had 3 days, we could deliver to northern suburbs and Joburg, the inner CBD on Tuesdays. On Wednesday was the western end, Thursday was the eastern end, and then Mondays and Friday was the Joburg South. So from that proceeding that we're getting there, that was keeping up the donation, the delivery of the donation from the communities. And there were also good willers who came and said, Tim, I'm sending you this amount, please. Just go in the street, they will give an address. Go to this street and donate this to these 10 families. Someone will say, you know what, Tim, I got some small money. Can I send you? Please choose any beneficiary in the community. Go and donate it. So there was so much, that's when you saw the real humanity in times of trouble.
Tim, what are you up to now?
Tim is busy. I'm busy planting a seed of Tim in each and every community. I believe that if Tim dies tomorrow, it will be crime if I never live to the fullest of my talent. So Tim is busy grooming young people from the ages of 3 years old to 100-year-old granny and capacitating them with skills in terms of agroecology and exposing them to opportunities in agri-related career, for them to know that, sitting down and there's land, it's criminal. Look at the hunger that is coming. Look at Ukraine and Russia. There's fight. Food prices will go up during lockdown. Food prices they were skyrocketing. We want to create a society where people are food conscious and people must grow their own food. Yes, you cannot buy salt, meal, cooking oil, and others. But the small things like vegetables that you can produce, that's what I'm pushing. And, look at the country. There's over 35% youth unemployment, over 55, and then the overall unemployment is over 30%. So how do we absorb these people in the agri field? So for me, from my side, I'm busy training a group of agripreneurs and community members on agroecology and organic farming for them to start their own farming enterprises and also exposing them to opportunities in the agri space.
So we're changing it from not just teaching people to fish. We have to teach people to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. Tim, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for sharing your story, your experience, and thank you for the change that you've made in South Africa, and long may it continue.
Going forward,
Yeah,
one
absolutely.
veggie patch at a time. Well done, Tim. I love it.
Melanie, going forward one veggie patch at a time.
Well, why not? We've got to take over the world somehow.
Through veggie patches.
Buy veggie patches, yeah.
That's it for this week, guys. Thank you for joining us. Been nice having you with us. We'll catch you again next week. Bye.